and welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is the podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. Now, I have done some episodes in the past where I go through my planning process for various time frames. I know I've done one for the month and I've done one for the week. I've even emptied my email inbox on the air. I paused it. You didn't get a real-time rendering of that little activity because that would have been a pretty long episode, but you get what I'm saying. I've gotten some positive feedback on these episodes and you guys have asked for more with different seasons or different months or time frames covered. So I figured today I would go through kind of a live version of me planning my summer. Now, this is a little bit of an artistic rendering. Planning takes time. I sat and did this activity this morning and it took me about an hour, maybe a little bit more. And I didn't want to subject anyone to an episode that featured long swaths of silence while I thought through various things. So instead, I'm going to walk you through the tools I used, the questions I asked myself, and my answers. And you can absolutely use this episode to play along and think through your summer as it is coming up as well. All you need is your planning materials of choice, and then just plan to hit pause on this recording when you want time to fill out your own kind of fields and go through the planning of your summer. All right, so what materials did I use? Well, I used my little planning by season workbook, which goes through all the questions that I'm going to talk about in a minute, as well as my planner, which has a copy of my annual goals in it, as well as my seasonal goals, since I did need to go ahead and look back on some of those for the exercise. And that's pretty much it. I did this on pen, didn't consult a lot of electronic references or anything like that. Yeah, but I went ahead and got started, and I feel like I've got a pretty good framework going. Every once in a while, as I was planning, I did kind of stop and look various calendar dates up and things like that to fill in some gaps. So I guess it was helpful to have access to my computer to do that. But for the most part, it was a fairly analog activity, and it did involve some decent levels of concentration. I was tired when I finished with this planning exercise, but I also felt more confident in feeling like I know what I want to do in the upcoming season, so I think that effort was worth it. All right, so as I open up my workbook here, there is a page where I do my reflections on the past season. Now, as I'm recording this, we're not totally done with quintile 2, but I do feel like I am coming around the bend to the end. And just to refresh, I consider quintile 2 to be the quintile where my kids have, after spring break, they're back to school until the end of the year. I think there are 2 weeks left in the academic year in Florida, so my kids are almost done. They're not totally done, but I felt like there was enough finish that I was ready to do this planning exercise. And so I reflected on my Q2 and my biggest reflection that it was a very emotional season for me. As I talked about in a prior episode, my mother-in-law, who I loved very much, passed away. So, honestly, in many ways, the period of time was defined by that. And there were also just many beautiful events during this season, a lot of fun travel that worked better than maybe travels of the past had, just because my kids are getting older and more fun to be with. I did some really satisfying and exciting solo travel, going up to a college reunion event that I talked about. I feel like we had a lot of fun celebrations of the kids' achievements, like we just had my daughter's piano recital, and I felt so proud watching her doing that, as well as watching my other kids get honored for various things. So I don't know, it was a bit of a victorious feeling season, of course, spiked with some deep sadness and loss, because that's life. Life contains multitudes, but this season, other than the obvious sadness, I would say was a very successful one in that I planned some goals, I made progress on pretty much all of them, and I feel like I really had a wonderful time with the past few months doing things with friends and with family. So yeah, I feel really satisfied with my Q2. Now, struggles or lessons learned, I'm not sure I had struggles. There were a lot of lessons and reflection around the various family happenings, and most of that centers around how valuable family time and time with loved ones truly is. But I'd say if there's any lesson learned, it's maybe that I don't need to be so afraid of travel that's fairly frequent, as long as there's a plan, as long as there are an adequate number of days to work to get the jobs done that I need to do, whether that's clinical work or creative work, and that just simply going out of town isn't necessarily going to be draining, especially if a lot of those trips involve doing something fun. So I guess I'm pleasantly surprised that I learned the lesson that several weeks of back-to-back travel were more doable than I may have expected. So I guess that's a kind of positive life lesson. All right, the next thing I do is I go ahead and I review my annual goals. So I have my planner right here, but I also have the little summary notes that I took on it. So I'm going to certainly not go through my entire list here, but I'll tell you the notes that I took, which are that I'm celebrating the progress I've made in my decluttering goals. That's been a big win. I've met a lot of fitness goals that I set out to meet, including leveling up in Pilates that I talked about. I feel like I've made partial progress on my playing more piano goal. I played a lot more than I ever played any other year and did master several Taylor Swift songs, which I wanted to do. And I feel like I did a fantastic job during Quintile 2 specifically planning our summer trip. So that's like a meta planning win. Now, in terms of are there goals that I feel like I would benefit of migrating to either someday maybe or to another year, it's kind of helpful to go ahead and look at that annual goals list and decide if there's some that you just want to take off the list for yourself. For me, the only one that came to mind is that I did say I was going to go to a pediatric endocrinology conference this year, and I was so excited to go, you guys. I had even planned a little meetup. I was going to have dinner with my friend who lives out there. I was excited for the clinical content. And then again, with my mother-in-law and everything that happened, it happened just at the right time that I could not go on that trip. And it was an easy decision to make in the moment. But it does mean that I'll be tabling that goal until 2027. There just aren't any conferences with the same types of topics with the right time frame for me until that same conference rolls around next May. So I'm deferring that goal for the year. Now, is there anything I'm excited for my annual list to really lean into over the summer? This is a really small one, but I did want to level up my nail care this year, and I have not done that so far. But I feel like summer would be an appropriate time to at least schedule a monthly mani-pedi and then try to keep up my nails in between. So I'm going to kind of bring that one to the surface, a little frivolous, but definitely still fun. I am excited to work on really thinking about my next creative project, and I do have one in mind that I'll talk a little bit about maybe later in a future episode. And then I guess I still feel, you can hear it in my voice how excited I am, but I would like to get another estimate for our bathroom remodel. We got one, which was okay, but we just want to make sure that maybe there aren't some other options as well. So I'm not going to say I'm excited to move forward with the remodel, but I think I could commit to at least getting a little bit more information this summer. So those are things that I feel kind of moved from my annual list to maybe take a bite out of in the coming next few months. I also asked myself, is there anything really time sensitive where I have it on my annual list, and if I don't go ahead and get it started now, then it probably won't happen? For me, the only thing that fit this category is that I need to get working on my workbook revisions for Planning 2027. Both the live conference, which is already sold out. We're so excited, but we're having the 4th annual Best Laid Plans live in South Florida. But if you can't come to that, or you wanted to, but we didn't have a slot left, then of course I always do a really fun virtual version with 4 hours of interactive planning content. And I revise the workbooks every time. We redesign them. I add stuff, I take stuff out. So that is a project I need to get on this summer in order to ensure that it is ready in time for those programs that launch in the fall. All right, we're going to do one more step and then take a break, and that is the hard landscape audit. So I look ahead at the next few months all in a row. So for me, the summer months include June, July, and really just the beginning of August. Fun fact, the weeks that my kids are off this summer only amount to 9, so it is a very short season. I use quintiles to divide up the year, but 9 weeks is definitely less than 20% of the year. So it's a short season. That's okay. There's no rule that all the seasons have to be the same size. So there we are. But those are the weeks that I have to look at. And I went through with a fine-tooth comb, as you should if you're planning along with me, to look to see what exactly is happening in the coming months. When am I on call? When are we traveling? What weekends is my husband on call? What family events and birthdays do we have coming up? When is Father's Day? When is my father-in-law's and my dad's birthday? Those are all things that happen during this summer season. All that kind of stuff I wrote down. I also wrote down where my kids are for each week of camp, Now, I do have a separate camp spreadsheet, but it's kind of nice to also see that in calendar format to see how it all flows together. If you are curious for my camp spreadsheet template, I will make sure I include a copy of that in the show notes without the actual places my kids are going to camp, but I'll include an example of that in today's show notes. So if you haven't put anything together for the summer, you can get that on my website, theshoebox.com, and just look for today's episode. But anyway, this calendar overview is important because it helped me to see exactly how long the summer is, which is not very long. We're actually only home for like 6 weeks before we go on our big summer trip. And it also just helped me see the flow of camps and when my kids are going to be busy and not, and then kind of where the work and call weeks are going to intersperse there. Really, I have call towards the beginning and then towards the end of our summer season with a nice break in between with lots of travel. All right, we're going to take a break and then I'm going to go through the rest of the elements I use to plan summer. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Prep Dish. Everyone is looking for simple solutions this time of year, and if you haven't tried Prep Dish yet, it is the perfect time to simplify dinner. Prep Dish entirely removes the mental load out of planning dinner and provides efficient and super balanced meals for every week. Here's how it works. Every week, you receive a full week's dinner plan in your email, complete with shopping list. There are now also Instacart links to make it even easier to shop if you like to shop that way, or of course, you can take their printable list to your favorite grocery store. Then all of the prep work is laid out for you, and each of the weeknight dinners come together so quickly. You do the cooking, but someone else has done the thinking in a very strategic way. I love that. To try out Prep Dish at no cost, go to prepdish.com/plans to activate your trial. In addition to the super fast menus that I love, they're ready in 30 minutes or less typically, Prep Dish also has gluten-free, paleo, and low-carb options, so there's truly something for everyone. Again, that's prepdish.com/plans for your first 2 weeks free. If you try it, let me know. I'd love to hear about it.
Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come step into centuries of history that await in Scotland. Castles steeped in legend, walk along cobblestone streets. Come share the warmth of stories passed down through generations. This is a place with a past that is fully present today and all yours to explore. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't predict the future, but it can help you feel confident about future hires. Because Hiring Pro combines real-time insights and candidate data from the LinkedIn network with the criteria you've set for your role to deliver you a list of top-fit candidates. Businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
All right, I am back, and this is a Plan Along With Me episode where I am talking through planning my summer and the questions I ask myself and the way I look at my various lists in order to do that in an intentional manner. And again, feel free to plan along with me by pausing and using a notebook or your tool of choice to answer these questions for yourself. So the next thing I like to ask, is there any big project or theme to kind of sum up? That was my very bad pun there, but to sum up how I want to feel over the course of the next season. And for me, I realized that summer is going to be all about family and fun. And I mean, those are good goals the whole year long, but there are definitely seasons where I lean more into work and processes. I'd say especially quintile 1 and to some extent quintile 4 are very work-focused seasons for me. Quintile 5 is all about reflection and thinking about what's ahead. But quintile 3, the summer, for me, I want this to be about fun, relaxation, trying new things, slightly different schedules, like lean into the quirkiness and what makes summer different, and especially to really think about creating those family memories. As I've said, my kids are getting older, things with them are getting more fun, and we're starting to almost get to that point where I start thinking about how many summers we're all going to have together, and that number is getting smaller every year. I do have a rising 9th grader entering high school, so yeah, summer for me, I hope is going to be a big family fun season. Of course, there are going to be work goals and other things as well, but when I have to choose between priorities or think about where my focus lies, that's kind of where we're headed. All right, so then I asked myself, what are 3 things that would make the summer feel successful for me? And do I want to read these on the air? Well, we'll see if I have to edit as I read them. So number 1, I wrote, I want to feel like I made really special memories for the kids and for them to feel like we created an awesome summer together. Number 2, I wrote, I feel like I want to feel like I took care of my body and mind and end the season feeling healthy, strong, confident, and centered. And number 3, I want to feel like I kept professional growth, kept on my professional growth and stayed on top of it all. And then I listed several kind of creative work projects that I want to make sure I give attention over the summer. So that kind of summed up what I wanted in my goals. And then I went ahead and chose my categories. I always tell people there is no right answer as to what types of categories you want to set your goals in for a given season or month or year. Mine tend to be fairly similar from month to month, but I will introduce some variations. For this summer, I used personal, business, family and relationships as one category, home, pure fun, and then I have a meta planning category because I needed somewhere to put tasks that involve planning things for the future, which are still important because that's how you keep the ball rolling. But for me, it was helpful to list that out as a separate category. All right, so domain number 1, personal. And again, I may not share all of the goals that I listed here, but I'll share some of them. I want to complete some strength training in the gym. That's something I want to try that I haven't done for a while, just seeking out some heavier weights in a gym setting. I want to track my time a little bit more regularly. I'm not going to do it so granularly, 15 minutes or half hour by hour, but I just want to keep a running. I think it just fits naturally on my daily planner page to write basically what I'm doing every hour or so, and I just want to experiment with that. So those are some of my personal goals. In the business category, I wrote, I want to have fun with BLPA 2.0. This is the first time I'm running that course. Sometimes I get nervous when I'm starting a new course, but I'm really just excited to put my all into this one, connect with the attendees, and enjoy it. So that was a goal there. I want to pitch 10 podcasts for fall appearances. I feel like my content fits very well with back to school and end of the year, and no one's going to find me. Well, some people might find me on their own, but the best way to introduce myself to others is to actively try to make those connections. So it's worth a shot. And then I want to kind of start the scaffolding for my end of year programs as the work for that behind the scenes happens over the summer. All right, domain number 3 is family and relationships. I just want to keep up with my annual goal of a minimum 2 date nights per month and a reminder to seize any opportunities that come about kind of spur of the moment, as that's happened a little bit more often. I wanted this summer spend some one-on-one time with each kid. I've set this goal in the past, but I really haven't set it recently. Didn't do any mommy days over the quintile 1 or quintile 2, but I just feel like each kid probably needs some one-on-one time, especially my middle child. So I really want to make that happen with some outings out of the house that are one-on-one. And then I want to curate a really fun trip to see my parents and sister. As I was doing this planning, I realized, you know what? I want to take everyone to a fun brunch to celebrate both Mother's Day and Father's Day belatedly with my parents. So I went ahead and booked the reservation while I was doing this planning. So sometimes you do stop and get something done if it's quick, and I felt really good about doing that. Domain 4, under home, I want to go through the kids' clothes before back to school. I want to keep organizing with my professional that I've been working with and schedule my husband at least one session with her. And I want to get one more bathroom remodeling estimate. Number 5, under pure fun, I want to just have a summer reading bonanza. I want to abandon books that don't work and choose books that are really, really fun and exciting and just lean into that. I want to play piano most days. And I want to go to the pool as a regular thing. And I am finding that much more fun than I did when the kids were little because it's so much less stressful now. It can be more social and more relaxing, and I'd like to do more of it. And then finally, under my meta planning domain, I wrote about a couple of future trips that I want to kind of solidify what we're doing. I want to look at the upcoming Broadway shows that come to Fort Lauderdale and see if any of them fit for the upcoming season. And I even want to start working on next summer's travels and thinking about possibly booking lodging pretty far in advance. So that is my goal setting. And then I often think this is a wonderful time to go through thinking about different routines. So I decided to think a little bit more deeply about my post-work routine and what that might look like over the summer. I asked myself if there are specific appointments that I wanted to book over the summer and realized that we have not had our air conditioner serviced in a while, and it's probably a good idea to maybe have a little preventative visit from those experts soon. I wrote down that I have to schedule my mammogram. I keep getting reminders about that. For some reason, that's the one medical thing that I love to put off as long as possible, really long. And I want to do those monthly nail appointments, so I'm going to book those as well. I think about what is coming up on the horizon in terms of whether there's anything that still needs to be booked for the summer. And for me, that's mostly all the big things like the camp and the travel, but the little activities during travel or things like maybe going to some local theater, those are things that I'd like to think about adding to the calendar. I have a space for thinking about group gatherings. So, what we want to do for Memorial Day, which I just figured out, 4th of July, and Labor Day, which is really not in the summer in terms of when my kids are off of school, but still comes to mind. And then finally, I reviewed any travel that's coming up, and I have space to go through my ideal week and write out how I'd like a summer week to look. That's going to be a difficult exercise in the summer because I do feel like the weeks differ from each other a little bit more than the rest of the year, but I do plan to do this anyway, and I do have a template for that as well that I have used. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, I can try to include the summer weekly planning template in the June newsletter. So the best way to get that is to make sure you're on my newsletter list. Yeah, and I haven't actually done this ideal week exercise for myself for this summer, and I've just decided that I'll table that until closer to the start of the season. But there you go. I have a lot of plans. I have my goals set. I feel like I know where I want to be. I feel like I kind of know where I want to steer in terms of how I want to feel at the end and where I want my focus to be. I have some fun goals that I want to be working toward, and I generally have an idea of what the calendar landscape looks like. Again, that took me maybe about an hour or a little bit more, but I do feel like the time was worth it. I guess it took more because I then read it to all of you guys, although that's more podcasting time and not planning time itself. But honestly, reading through it helped me solidify it even more. So as you do your planning, if you then have a friend where you can share your plans with, kind of mimicking what I did on this podcast, then that might be a really helpful way of helping you think through things and work through things one more time. All right. Well, that has been another Plan With Me episode. Please let me know what else you would like to plan with me. Should we do a morning routine together? I don't know. Or a someday maybe list curation, or I don't know. We'll have to think about it. So please get your suggestions coming. I have 2 physical products that are ready for me to review that I'm so excited to talk about, including a planner from the brand The Daily, which a reader recommended it to me. And I ordered one, and I'm going to review it. And then another reader was like, why don't you ever mention The Daily? So I'm just so excited that I'm going to be mentioning this fairly new to me planner brand on an upcoming episode. So stay tuned for those reviews. I have a guest coming up, and then of course there'll be more time for Q&A. So keep those questions and planner piece submissions coming. I hope you enjoy planning your summer. I hope you can make a little cozy event out of it. And if you do and you'd love to share your goals list with me, please feel free. You can always email me your questions or comments at sarah.hart@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back in your feed next week with some more planning fun.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.